usually, people say that when markets are volatile, it's the worst time to enter.
Right.
And yet you've seen, and other broking businesses have seen such a flood of new entrants. I mean, what would you tell these
Yeah.
guys who are entering the markets at this time?
I mean, see, the good thing is that what we are tracking, right? Is it's not like people opening account and just going gung ho and putting all the money into it. Right? I mean, these are guys who are sitting on the sideline, who started investing with 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, and things like that. So you can't really go wrong on that. Uh,
Right.
I think people who are looking at this as, oh, it's fallen so much, so it's gonna bounce back. Let me buy boatloads of stock. I mean, those guys, I think, that we try to put some sense saying, I don't think this is it's going to be bouncing back immediately. This is probably a 1-2 year, like a wait. And even that 1-2 year, I don't know all the worst case outcomes yet, right? As in,
Yeah.
I mean, the way we are suggesting is that, okay, it's a good time, it's fallen. So if you haven't ever invested, it's a good time to start, but do it, in staggered way, right? As in, just put 1-2% of, if you've never invested in the markets, start with 1-2%, and
Right.
and every fall maybe just increase it or something like that. So it's a really good time for people who are sitting by the side to, for example, start a SIP. I think SIP is, when you, if you're able to get 1-2 years of really low price on the SIP, on the long term, the dollar cost averaging kind of works much better for you.
Right.
So it's, I mean, the advice would be that this is most likely not going up, to, so it's probably, it's probably bouncing to fall again, so.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I think this crisis, what a lot of really good economists are saying, that this is probably going to be the worst crisis after the Great Depression of 32. And in that time, the US stock market took, like, I think about 22 years to actually recover, to pre-depression levels. So I guess, I mean, if anyone is thinking that it's going to be a simple matter of India just having to go through this for 2-3 months and then everything will just bounce back, I mean, that's really naive, right?
No, but the thing is, the other flip side to this is, whenever a lot of people say that it's going to fall, it'll not fall. Right?
Right.
So that stock markets are, I mean, it's just, when I, like, every morning you listen to gloom and doom, like everyone calling about it, like, saying it's going to fall, it's going to fall. And that's typically when market outperforms, right?
Like
Because
April.
yeah, whenever there's a consensus,
Yeah.
market exactly does opposite to what the consensus is.
Yeah.
So I see the thing is, one thing is for sure, there's a lot of liquidity in the ecosystem, right? As in, not out of the 100 crore Indians, maybe the 1-2 crore Indians, right, who typically come invest in the market, the top 1-2. So there is liquidity there,
Yeah.
because uh, so there are a lot of people. You can see the data in terms of money lying in savings accounts and fixed deposits. There is a lot of money lying there, so which potentially can come to the markets.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we will get pushed to a depression kind of levels because of
Right.
all this security, and then you know, and our the mother of all markets, US, can continue printing a lot of money. So so as long as they're able to print, so I think the world will somehow survive. So I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, I think that is one of the main reasons why markets globally have, been resilient, right? Because, I mean, as a class, as an investment class itself, compared with bonds, this just looks so much more attractive because, I mean, just interest rates on bonds are just so low that if someone has a ton of money, I mean, where would you put that? So at least in the US, that has been keeping the markets quite resilient. And like you said, even in India, at least, the top 1 to 2% of income earners, I mean, they have a lot of money lying,
right.
in their bank accounts. So yeah, so I suppose that could be a big reason why, markets will continue to be extremely difficult to predict.
Right.
You mentioned, a couple of things about productivity. Could you just elaborate on that? What are the early lessons that you've learned so far in terms of both productivity and about managing people in a kind of remote work environment?
No, I think like couple of things that we did, which has kind of worked quite okay for us, has been. So there is more accountability now that there is this remote kind of structure, right? So before, seeing someone walk into the office, you would assume that he's working in the office, right? Like just because he's sitting on his table, you're thinking, he's working.
Yeah.
So now, it's kind of changed, right? So now it's about, if you worked, like for example, our sales team, if they have to, for example, clock in 3.5 hours of calling. Right?
Yeah.
Now the whole process to track if they're calling, how many, all of that got built because of this, right? Because we couldn't now. I mean, ideally speaking, we should have done this earlier, right? But then I said, right, there were so many inefficiencies across the board, which all got fixed because of this.
Right.
Because we were forced to do it. So I think this whole like there's so much of accountability that's come for each and every person in the team. Like, I exactly know what this guy is doing at work because he has to now there is a report that's monitoring him, saying what he's doing, etc., which was not happening before.
Right.
So I think that has been kind of I think an improvement in the way we operate as a business.
Mm-hmm.
The other learning experience has been that I think this must have been said multiple times, but I think a lot of business has, I think, one too many people working. So which in a sense there are a lot of inefficiencies just in the way we hire. I think which is suddenly starting to show up right now, which is processes we didn't need too many people. There are too many people which needed people. There aren't people. So in this current scenario, all of that is kind of showing up very clearly. So I mean, I think the good thing about whatever little good thing about this entire episode is that I think a lot of businesses, I know a lot of founders and CEOs of companies who are all sitting and improving the products and improving the processes, etc.
Right.
Giving you the time to do it as well.
Right. I mean, of course, it's really early right now, but after this passes, whenever it does, what are some of the major changes in the post-COVID new normal that we will continue to see from now compared with pre-COVID?
No, I think just the way we work, I think, like I said, all these efficiencies means a lot of automation, right? I think automation means maybe lesser number of employment issues. So right? Also this entire working remotely means, I think, for sure, like we were thinking of moving into a big office, as in we have 20,000 square office. So we had thought square feet offices, we thought we will take 180,000, but I think I'm differing that, right? Because with this whole remote, I mean, some of the people are enjoying working from home, right? As in because they're actually being more productive. They're enjoying being with the family more. So we're like, why even force them to spend 1-2 hours in traffic to come to work, right? As in, and if someone can work out of a remote small city, small town, etc. I think India needs that right now, right? I think we need to somehow stop clogging the cities, and I think businesses like us can do our part to see whatever work can be done remotely. If people can do it of small towns and cities, so you need to help rev up those economies as well.
Right.
So I think the way people work in itself is going to change significantly. And I mean, of course, Zoom, etc., was always there, right? As in, but now we are also comfortable on Zoom, right? I mean, I almost feel you're sitting right in front of me, right? So I think with this, I think this whole working remote, working online, all of this, I think this is going to take off big time. I'm already seeing a lot of my colleagues, who are CEOs, etc., doing, kind of pushing the businesses towards that direction.